We are ready to start, and we start with the introductions. The president will be the last to introduce himself. So we'll start from this side.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone.
Sorry, the president wants to say something.
Okay, so very quickly, I wish to welcome you all to the LAZ house, or Secretariat, as it were. I'll just very quickly call upon my council members just to briefly introduce themselves. We'll start with Kabadi.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Kobani Chibeleka, and I'm council member for the Law Association of Zambia.
Good afternoon, all. My name is John Lucy, and I'm calling a council member.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Limose Tembo Tindi. I am a council member.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Njavwa Sinkamba. I'm a council member of the Law Association of Zambia. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Sonia Shamana. I'm the Vice President of the Law Association of Zambia.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Netuli Malisa Katagati. I am a member of the LAZ Council.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Womba Silumbu Kampondo, and I'm the Honorary Treasurer.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Arnold Kaluba, and I'm the President for the Law Association of Zambia. I wish to take this special moment, first and foremost, to welcome all the media houses to the LAZ house to be part of what an association we view as a very important briefing. So the Law Association of Zambia, as you may be aware, is a feature of statute. We are created by the Law Association of Zambia Act, which is chapter 31 of the laws of Zambia. And section 4 of our empowering statute gives us a mandate. And one of the key mandates that we have in the association is to promote the rule of law and enhance democracy for the country. And we are also called upon as an association to foster the development of the law as an instrument for enhancing social order and social justice. So clearly, from those introductory remarks, the promotion of the rule of law, constitutionalism, and democracy are quite important and top of the agenda. I welcome you all once again. Our press briefing this afternoon has been necessitated by the update that came from the Electoral Commission of Zambia to the effect that they have proceeded to actually suspend the counting as well as the announcing of the results in certain, not certain areas, but in all areas across the country. So LAZ has noted with serious concern the decision that has been made by the ECZ to suspend the counting and announcement of election results throughout the country following reported incidents of violence in some districts. LAZ recognizes ECZ's constitutional mandate to administer the electoral process and of course acknowledges its responsibility to protect electoral officials, voters, and electoral materials. However, I need to be very quick to mention that the exercise of that mandate by the ECZ must at all times be within the confines of the Constitution, including the Electoral Process Act, and must at the barest minimum satisfy the principles of legality, necessity, rationality, as well as proportionality. There are a couple of things that, as an association, which is duly mandated to enhance constitutionalism and promote the rule of law, would wish to highlight. The first one is with respect to the association's unequivocal condemnation of electoral violence. And in this respect, LAZ condemns in the strongest terms all acts of violence regarding or regardless of where that violence is emanating, and attacks on polling staff and reported theft on marked ballot papers constitute serious threats to the integrity and credibility of the electoral process. And in this respect, LAZ calls upon the Zambia Police and other relevant law enforcement agencies to secure affected polling stations, protect electoral personnel and materials, and promptly investigate the reported incident and bring all perpetrators to book. And persons responsible for the electoral violence must be dealt with firmly and impartially in accordance with the legal framework. The second thing that we wish to cover as part of this press statement includes the concerns over ECZ's reliance on Section 67, subsection 3 of its empowering statute, which is the Electoral Process Act number 35 of 2016. As I have already alluded to, the ECZ has placed reliance on Section 67, subsection 3 of the said Act as the legal basis for its decision to suspend the counting as well as the announcing of the result. It must be, however, noted that Section 67 must be interpreted in totality or as a whole, rather than merely focusing on subsection 3 as has been highlighted in isolation. The statutory framework as a whole requires the counting to commence immediately after the closing of polling and to continue until completion. Section 67, subsection 3 provides an exception, as it were, by permitting procedures relating to counting to be suspended within the approval of the Commission. The legal starting point in this respect is therefore the continuous counting, which is the rule, the legal starting point is therefore that continuous counting is the rule and suspension is actually the exception. The existence of a statutory power to suspend counting does not mean that the power is unlimited. Its exercise must maintain, or rather must remain, within the purpose, scope, and limitation contemplated by the legislation. The next theme that we wish to cover in this respect is the polling station suspension versus nationwide suspension. We wish to reiterate in this respect that the structure of Section 67 of the Electoral Process Act appears principally concerned with the counting of individual polling stations of vote, including the responsibilities of the presiding officer where counting is suspended. ECZ's statement itself indicates that violence occurred in some segmented district. This raises an important legal issue and practical question. Why should disturbances then occurring in some districts justify suspending the counting and announcing of the results throughout the entire country? The next theme that we wish to highlight is the notion of necessity versus proportionality. We wish to state as an association in this respect that even where ECZ has a legitimate basis to suspend the counting, the measure adopted must be necessary and proportionate to the identified threat. We, in this respect, call upon the ECZ to explain whether less restrictive measures were considered before arriving at the decision which has been communicated, which may potentially have included suspending counting only in affected polling stations as opposed to suspending in all polling stations across the country, or securing affected counting centers through enhanced police presence, or even isolating affected constituencies or districts, or perhaps allowing counting to continue in unaffected parts of the country. And we just wish to indicate here in trying to contextualize this statement that the suspension operates across the country, even in those areas where peace has actually been reported, which is something that as an association we obviously take issue with. The unlawful actions of individuals in particular locations should not unnecessarily prevent the millions of voters that turned up to vote elsewhere from having their votes counted or even processed. I wish at this particular juncture to highlight on the aspect of the fact that violence must not become a veto over the electoral process altogether. And in this respect, the Law Association of Zambia is particularly concerned about the precedent that could arise if violence in isolated areas only is capable of bringing the entire national electoral process to a standstill. Electoral violence must never become an effective veto over the democratic process. Such an approach, I must add, could inadvertently incentivize disruption by creating an expectation that violence in particular areas only can suspend the national electoral process. The appropriate response should, wherever practicable, be to contain the violence, secure affected areas, and permit the lawful electoral process to continue elsewhere. Distinction between the counting and announcing of results. ECZ's decision, which I have previously alluded to, contained in the press release, goes beyond suspending the counting process. It extends to suspending the announcement of the actual election result. I wish to reiterate further that Section 67, subsection 3, specifically concerns procedures relating to the counting of votes and not the announcement itself. The Electoral Process Act separately regulates the announcement and declaration of result, away from the state provision. The ECZ in this respect, therefore, should clarify the precise legal basis upon which Section 67, subsection 3 has been relied upon to suspend the announcement of results nationwide. This question, we believe, is particularly important in relation to polling stations and electoral areas where counting has already been completed and results have duly been verified. And any continued suspension should be supported by clear reasons and remain limited in both geographical and temporal scope. We wish to further implore the Electoral Commission of Zambia in this respect to guarantee the safety of all persons accredited to observe and monitor the counting of votes in various polling stations. And one of the key messages that we have this afternoon as an association, which is by way of reiteration, indeed, is the fact that LAZ condemns electoral violence unequivocally, and it matters not where the basis or what the basis of that violence is, whether it is perpetrated by the ruling government or those in opposition. We believe that peace is of utmost importance, and we must all do our very best to ensure that we continue the peace that we have enjoyed for the longest time. Violence occurring in particular areas should not, without compelling legal and factual justification, result in the suspension of the electoral process throughout the country. Section 67, subsection 3, permits the suspension of the counting procedures, but the existence of that power does not resolve the separate questions of its geographical scope, its proportionality, or the legal basis for suspending the announcement of results that have already been counted and duly verified. Lastly, LAZ therefore calls on the Electoral Commission of Zambia to rescind its decision to suspend the counting of votes and announcement of electoral results throughout the country, particularly in areas where there has not been any violence reported. I thank you most sincerely. I'm happy to take questions, 2 or 3, if any. Okay. So we check it as yes.
Yes, my name is Oswald Kaponka from Private TV. So the Joint Alliance has pledged to take legal action to ensure that the ECZ continues the announcement of the laws. In this case, as LAZ, I'd like to find out what legal action can be taken to obviously compel the ECZ to resume the counting and announcement of the laws.
Where we have previously stated that, of course, the law has put in place mechanisms to allow those people that will be aggrieved with the actual outcome of the result or of the election, as it were, to seek legal redress. So for as long as what the citizens have done is within the confines of the law, nothing proscribes them, as it were, from taking that particular legal action. But as an association, our primary mandate is to ensure that the rule of law is observed, is safeguarded, and we are going to make sure that this period we are alert, and it's in that respect that we have deployed quite a number of election observers in various polling stations to ensure that the process is smooth, but also that we flag any issues that we think fall within the mandate of the association as articulated in Section 4 of the Law Association of Zambia Act, Chapter 31 of the Laws of Zambia. Any additional question? In the absence of any further questions, I wish, on behalf of the association, to thank you most sincerely for making an appearance at this important press briefing, and we wish you a blessed afternoon. God bless you.